Welcome back to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami Lavi. That is Vince D'Amato. Vince, how you doing? Hope you're having or had a good week. Sunday evening as we record this. Hope you had a good Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. What's up, dude?
Not much. Happy Mother's Day, like you said. The Cubs had a really great series this weekend against Pittsburgh. I wish they should have won yesterday, but they ended up winning in extras today, so that was fun. Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was hot out today in Illinois. I'm loving the weather, loving baseball. Everything life's good. Got nothing to complain about. So I hope it's the same with you over there in New York.
I don't have a ton of headlines, but I'll tell you this. Can the Cubs just play a normal game ever or totally not? Because Paul Skeens makes his debut, right?
Mhm.
Which was just so funny to me that you weren't on, of course, because we were hyping him up, and then he makes his debut against the Cubs, and you weren't on to talk about it. But you could talk about it now, what you saw from him. You could do a little breakdown if you'd like.
Sure.
But he leaves, and that's when shit really got crazy, which is just, I mean, the Cubs can't play a normal game. They're incapable of it. So the Cubs got a hit by pitch and then 6 consecutive walks and then a single with the rain delay and a couple of pitching changes thrown in the middle of it. Just the weirdest inning in baseball history.
Yeah. I actually, so I was out with some friends when the game started and I said, no, we need to, I made sure, I'm like, no, we're going to this place. I need to watch this game. I need to watch Paul Skeens start. And of course the rain delay happened and, we had to kind of ixnay, but whatever. Paul Skeens, he looked pretty much as advertised, right? I don't know if you caught any of it, but that first inning, I was real nervous because he looked dominant. He made Seiya Suzuki look stupid. He made Cody Bellinger look dumb. So I was worried, and it'll be really interesting because I don't know if you know this too, but he lines up to face the Cubs again next week.
Oh, really?
So yeah, they'll play again, and I'll be curious to see who makes the better adjustment. Right? Will it be Skeens? Will he be a little bit more better prepared? Because I don't want to say fell off. He kind of ran into some problems, and I think Pittsburgh had a quick hook for him. We'll see if he's able to prep a little bit more for that, or if the Cubs, now that they've seen him, will be a little more ready. I don't know who, it's a chess match, so that'll be an interesting one to watch. But no, it was a good start for him. Good first outing. Obviously, he's got one of the brightest potential futures that we've ever seen. So yeah, I'm real excited to watch him. It's unfortunate that it came against the Cubs and the Cubs ended up losing. But yeah, what a game! It's been a wild weekend. Yeah.
That's what the Cubs do. They play weird games. By the way, speaking of the Cubs and weird games, did you see the Nightingale tweet that I talked about in last episode where Shota, he throws 7 shutout innings and Nightingale tweets out another 7 shutout innings for Shota. This guy is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Greatest free agent signing. And of course he comes back for the 8th, gives up a base runner and then a 2-run home run and then gets yanked.
Yep.
Just typical Nightingale. That was awesome.
Yeah. I think
you can't mess with fate. Once Nightingale tweeted it, it was over. There's nothing you can do about it.
Maybe can he tweet in the reverse? Like, does that work? Like, if he says this guy's horrible, will he go out and?
I think it would work. Yeah,
do good. Yeah, maybe he needs to do that for Edward Alzolay. Alzolay again gave up another 2-run home run today. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I've given up on him, so I'm not sure if anyone still has him on his roster. Yeah. The other thing is Aaron Judge is back.
Yeah.
This past week, just in the last week, right? 500 average. He's got 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, 6 runs scored. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say about him. He's it now? 9 for his last 24. Just stupid numbers. Yeah,
we knew this. I don't have it up in front of me, but we were looking at this not too long ago, and we looked at his Savant page, right?
Yep,
his Savant page, and it still is. I just pulled it up. It is bright red all across the board. Everything above 90%, all the stuff you want to see. So we knew this was coming, right? Like his surface stats may not have been there, but yeah, everything underlying is just booming that, hey, he is going to break out. And he could have one of the better, second halves of the year, whatever, last 3/4 of the year. People would forget all about this first quarter, right? Like
he's on pace for 37 home runs and 100 RBIs. And he got off to the worst start.
And that's with a bad start. Yep.
What? So, I mean, I'd assume this guy goes, that's his pace for the year overall. So considering what he's done the last couple of weeks, this guy might hit another 50 home runs and drive another 120 RBIs. You consider obviously Soto's in the lineup and all those things.
I didn't realize he's walking at a 16% clip too.
Oh
That's
yeah,
unbelievable. That's
he was still getting
unbelievable.
his walks. Like that,
Yeah.
it felt like when he got his pitch, he was just missing it, and
Yeah.
he was just a little off. And so now
Good
he's
for him.
not. And so I'm happy to see that, and we'll
Yeah.
see how far that takes him. Were there any other headlines that you thought of?
Yeah, I had a couple just with some injury stuff that
Yep.
kind of has happened. Taj Bradley came back.
Hmm.
He was out. I meant to mention him on the last time I was here, but I forgot. I mentioned Shane Baz. I should have mentioned Taj. Taj came back and he looked phenomenal, right? He was a top, 3 pitching prospect a couple years ago at this time. So no surprise to see him come back and shove. And if there's any still buy low window on Taj Bradley, I'd be all over it because I think he's got the stuff to do it. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run.
Yep.
Looked great. And then TJ Friedel was another one that I had brought up too. He finally came back and then looks like he got hit in the thumb. So I don't know if he's going to be out for a little bit
I
of
think he
time or
says
what.
day to
But
day, right?
yeah, I think he avoided fracture, which is good. But he's a guy that I was super hyped for. I was really excited for. I drafted him in quite a few leagues, and it kind of hurt me so far. But
And there were a couple
still have
of
high
Giants
expectations for
also,
him.
right? Like Conforto and Jung Hoo Lee, maybe.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah, both got hurt.
yeah. Those are just two of the ones that I had
And
seen
for Conforto,
recently.
it's a hamstring strain, so that's
Mm.
like, my God, who knows with that?
Yeah, those are always so tough to kind of diagnose. I think Ha-Seong Kim, yeah, he was also hit by a pitch. A lot of just, I thought we were finally getting to the point where everyone's getting healthy from their spring training stuff, and it seems like a few guys are going down. So
Dudes be going down. That's what
yeah,
happens. It's
yeah,
baseball.
it does.
That is baseball, Susan. But we have some guys who you can pick up who are not going down, who are going to have a great week. And they are our waiver wire pickups for this week. I have 2. How many do you have?
I have 3.
Okay,
I
so
have
you
3.
kick it
I'll
off.
start. Okay. So my first one is Josh Rojas for the Seattle Mariners, who he is eligible at second and third and 50% rostered. Having a great season. 351, 3 home runs, 4 steals, and the turning point for him seems to have been when he took over for leadoff spot for that team. That was April 24th, and since then he's hitting 396, 2 home runs, 3 steals.
Well, he didn't bat lead off today, I'll tell you that.
I didn't see their game today, so
Dylan
that's
Moore
kind of
hit
weird.
lead off.
Interesting. But either way, if he's not hitting leadoff or whatever, it still seems like he's got a very hot bat. So, and he's got the dual eligibility, second, third. That's a rare combo, and it comes with corner infield and middle infield eligibility. So, I would certainly be riding with Josh Rojas if I could grab him.
All right, by the way, Sunday Night Baseball, in case you're wondering, bottom of the 7th, 2 runners on for Pete Alonso. Should I turn this on real quick?
I saw
When it's Pete
Kelnick hit a
Alonso
home run
versus Matt
today.
Olson, I got to turn it on.
I saw Kelnick hit a home run today too. That was pretty exciting. Good for
He
him.
hit a home run against the Mets.
Is that bad?
No, that's great. Because,
Okay.
again, I told you he was a Mets prospect.
Oh, right. Yeah.
All right, my first, as Alonso steps to the play, I'll monitor that as well. But my first waiver wire pickup for you is John Singleton.
Sure.
He's going to be playing first base, it seems like. I mean, for the Astros, right? Or at least DHing. Jose Abreu, that contract just hasn't worked out. He hasn't been good. Alonso flies it to right center field, back and caught. Yeah, in front of the track, a couple steps in front of the track.
Warning
Anyway,
track power.
yeah, exactly. Pete Alonso, just a weak ass dude.
I know.
But John Singleton, not a weak ass dude. He hit a home
Mhm.
run at Yankee Stadium. I was working the game. He hit a home run to a spot that I've never seen anyone hit a home run at Yankee Stadium. It hit the facing of the top deck in right field. I've never seen anyone hit one up there. I don't know what his savant page looks like. If he's like just got incredible raw power. I've seen a lot of lefties bat at Yankee Stadium. I have never seen a ball hit up there. That was stupid. So in the last couple of weeks, he got a 300 on base. This is just in the last 2 weeks, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 8 runs scored. He's 7 for 36 hitting. So again, he's not like lighting it up like crazy, but it feels like if he could win over that first base job, and the Astros just aren't total ass, I mean, if they could just pick it up in the slightest bit, I feel like he's a good, pickup. He's only rostered in 8% of Yahoo leagues. So that could be a nice under the radar pickup that you can grab him. And if he's not playing or if he stinks in a week, drop him. But maybe you could get some value there for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And again, that's one of those, it's unfortunate that, I loved watching Jose Abreu. It's too bad that his downfall is kind of the opening. Yeah. But John Singleton, good call. I love it. And the Astros are not last place in their division anymore. They are a half game above the Angels. So
it's incredible.
They're turning it around, right?
One Mike Trout injury.
My next one is Leody Taveras, outfielder for the Texas Rangers. And he was a guy I was kind of in on a little bit in the offseason. Brings power, brings speed. He's got the good defense, which I thought would keep him in. And I was worried, right? Because with Wyatt Langford coming up, I thought he's probably going to lose playing time. Taveras seems like the first guy out. And now with Langford gone, Taveras has, he had a slow start to the season, but he's really picked it up. Hit safely in 11 of his last 13 games, 333 average in those games, 2 home runs, a steal. Again, not lighting the stat sheets up with power and speed, but hitting well, getting on base. He scored 13 runs. Again, we don't see those stats counted very often in fantasy as much as we probably should focus on them. So on a good team, playing every day, good defense. Leody Taveras is a guy that you should definitely look at.
I did look at Leody Taveras. Another guy that I did look at was Eddie Rosario from the Washington Nationals. And part of this was because of who they're playing this week. I forget actually now. But
the White Sox will be upcoming this week for them.
Yeah. So in the last week, Eddie Rosario is batting, or his on base is 550. He has 4 home runs. He's got 3 stolen bases, 7 RBIs, and 9 runs scored. I would say that's pretty good. He's the outfielder for the Nationals. So he's only rostered in 6% of leagues. Another guy that, hey, pick him up. He could be really hot. Let's see what happens. Ride the wave. Like all his production that he's had the entire season has come in the last 2 weeks. If he continues this way, great. If not, okay, drop him in a week. Like, you know what I mean? But maybe you find something here. One of the themes I talked about in last episode was around this time of year, you could still find value. They could end up being guys that just weren't good to start the year, and all of a sudden they turn it on now and they're good the rest of the year. And this is who they become. It's not just like a fluke. So Eddie Rosario could be another one of those guys.
Yeah, good call out. I love it. My last one here is a guy that I had said to pick up a few weeks ago that had a good start and now did not. And he's going to get another chance. And that's Ivan Herrera with the St. Louis Cardinals, catcher for the Cardinals, right? And I don't think we talked about that Wilson.
Yeah, I talked about it on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, sure, right. Sad situation, right? Obviously, we don't want to see
weird.
It, but
yeah, odd.
It is. Yeah, it is odd. It's weird. And if we're looking at fantasy, though, obviously, we feel bad for Wilson, but fantasy-wise, this opens up the door for Herrera, and so far he's really kind of stepped into it. Let's see. So I had it up. I'm sorry. So yeah, out of his last 4 games, he's got 3 multi-hit games: 2 for 4, 1 for 2, 2 for 4, 2 for 5. So maybe he's ready to kind of step back in. I know that he stepped in last time this happened when Wilson was out, and he started off hot and then cooled off really quickly. So he's a guy that he's got such good upside that it's worth taking the shot. And if you have any catcher question marks, if you don't have a top 10 catcher, which a lot of people, catcher's been kind of a weird position this year, Herrera's a guy to grab, plug into your lineup, and he seriously could be your catcher for the rest of the year if he kind of clicks and is able to keep it up, because he showed that he could do it last year in the minor leagues. So Ivan Herrera is a guy that you should definitely grab. He's got catcher one upside in him for sure.
Yeah, and I failed to mention him last week, but yeah, of course, if you're looking at a team, a guy who's, it's a broken arm, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So this is his job to lose right now, at least for the foreseeable future. So, and it's an opportunity for him to really, even when Contreras comes back, whenever that may be, get some playing time, but it could really carry over for a bunch of weeks. I mean, if you could win 6 to 8 weeks, because you're being carried at that position, that's pretty good. We also have pitchers for you. I have 2 pitchers to stream. How many pitchers do you have?
I also have 2.
All right. So I'm going to kick it off this time.
Sure.
I'm going to go with Chris Paddack, who I told you to stream a couple weeks ago. It didn't work out so well. He wasn't great, but then he's come back the last 2 starts, 11 and a third innings, 16 strikeouts, a .79 ERA, and 2 wins in those 2 starts. So pretty good for Chris Paddack, and he's going up against the Yankees. And then later in the week, I think he's facing the Cleveland Guardians.
Yep.
Yeah. So should be, I mean, again, the Yankees are starting to get hot a little bit offensively, but they haven't been like a scorching offense. They've been very up and down this season. And the Guardians are never a great offense. So considering what he's done in the last 2 starts, it's been a rocky season, but he's available on waivers. You can stream him. He's available. He's only rostered in 16% of Yahoo leagues. So Chris Paddack probably available. You can pick him up in your league and stream him for this week. You'll get probably 2 solid starts out of him.
Yeah, I like that call. Big Chris Paddack fan, and he's just a reminder that growth isn't linear with some of these guys. He's 28.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the highest rated prospects that we had.
I mean, we all remember when he first came up, right?
Yeah,
and the hype around him.
I remember it was like him and then Mike Soroka. They were like the 2 guys, 2 of the next dudes, and look where we're at now, right? It's just wild.
Yeah.
So my first pitcher is Jose Soriano for the Los Angeles Angels. He's going up against St. Louis on Monday, rostered in 32% of leagues. And the reason why I like him is not necessarily like, I don't think he's a stud. I think he's he's got above average stuff. So if you know what stuff plus is, essentially just measuring how good of a pitch you have or how good of pitches you have, right? Do you have nasty stuff, right? Spin rate, movement, stuff like that, velocity. And Jose Soriano's got good stuff. 105 stuff plus, where average is 100. So going up against a middling Cardinals offense, he's looked good so far this year. Soriano has. If you're looking for a stream, I wouldn't look much further than Jose Soriano on.
I think that was complimentary, by the way, to the Cardinals. Like their offense has been pretty bad.
It has, yeah.
They've been one of the like surprisingly bad teams in the league this year.
Maybe we got to find it. I was not buying the Cardinals at all. I really wasn't. I didn't, especially once Jordan Walker didn't figure it out. That was it. Like Lars Nootbaar obviously was out for a while, and he's been, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it from the beginning. So maybe that's just my salty Cubs bias. But what do you got? What's next?
I got another guy named Christopher Sanchez. He's rostered in 60% of Yahoo leagues, so he might be rostered more in like some of the more hardo leagues, and then you have to. That's a little bit tougher. But I like his matchups this week. He's playing the Mets at Citi Field. The Mets don't like to score a lot of runs at home. It's just something they don't do. So, and then he's got the Nationals later in the week, so he's going to get you 2 starts. He's pitching for the Phillies, who are as hot as any team. So if you're in a wins league, you could probably steal a couple wins that way. And his last start, he got the win throwing 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA for that one start. So good start for him. Christopher Sanchez, not going to get you a ton of strikeouts, but can strike some guys out. And like I said, his ERA and WHIP have been low. He's got 2 starts, 2 favorable matchups this week. And again, his team's going to score runs for him. He could probably get you two wins this week.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a big fan. My next one is a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he was one that I was on in the offseason. I was really hoping that he would kind of get some run as a starter earlier, but he's here now, and his name is Robert Gasser. He's going to take over that number 5 starting role, and he did pitch against the Cardinals 2 days ago now, and just absolutely looked phenomenal. 6 innings, just 2 hits, 4 strikeouts. So not big strikeout stuff last time, but he's got the potential. He had a 33% strikeout rate in the minor leagues this year, 10% walk rate, which are 11%. We don't love that, but against an offense like the Cardinals, like we just talked about, they're not doing too hot. They haven't looked good. So Kyle Hendricks I'm sorry. I skipped a step. He will be facing Pittsburgh. Robert Gasser will be on Wednesday. And Kyle Hendricks just shut down Pittsburgh.
And he's been awful this year.
He's been horrible. So if Kyle Hendricks,
one of the worst xERAs in the league this year so far,
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and he
I don't
just
know
went
what
5
xERA
innings.
is, but I saw that he's one of the worst.
Expected ERA, right? Like
him and the other guy from Baltimore. Forget which one of their starters has just been awful this year. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, and that's so. Yeah, I got ahead of myself. But Robert Gasser will be playing Pittsburgh on Wednesday, pitching against them. If he just did that well against St. Louis, he's probably going to do pretty well against Pittsburgh So yeah, I would be starting Robert Gasser, and he's a guy I wouldn't even mind holding on to for a little bit and see, especially if he throws well, because he's got Miami right after that on May 21st. So 2 really good starts looking ahead for Robert Gasser.
And by the way, the same goes for Chris Paddack. Like if he keeps it up, like
Mhm.
Christopher Sanchez, I wouldn't expect him to be on your roster, although he's the one who's more rostered of the two. But Chris Paddack, like, could be a guy who, hey, now you have him. You know what I mean? Also, I did see that Blake Snell did throw a rehab start. Should have said this at the top, but he had a rehab start. He actually threw an immaculate inning in his rehab start, which is cool.
Very cool. Good for him. Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. Well, speaking of good, the last week has been good for these guys, our MVPs of the week. They're not necessarily the best fantasy baseball player, but they might have been the best this past week. My guy actually was the number 1 ranked fantasy baseball player in the last
We
week.
probably got the same one.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't go with it. Is it Kyle Tucker?
No,
No, it's really not. I assumed he was number 1. Who's yours then?
I'm not saying.
Should I go first? I'll go first then.
Go talk about Kyle Tucker.
How does Kyle Tucker not get the respect that he deserves? Like maybe it's because Houston struggles. This guy should
no,
be
because
like,
even when Houston was great, he never, like, everyone talks about Altuve and Bregman and
Jordan
Alvarez.
and
I think that's probably why he got overshadowed by those guys.
it's just amazing because he is phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen any of his numbers. He's now leading majors in home runs, and he has 6 home runs in the last 10 games. He has just been on a tear. Kyle Tucker has, and 6 stolen bases too. Like this guy is just a perennial threat for 30-30. Like
Yeah.
he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. And again, once Houston starts to figure it out, like Kyle Tucker, he could be like one of those guys that he just kind of almost like an Aaron Judge 60 home run season. Like if he's on your roster, the rest of your roster could be like mid or just not good, and he could carry you into the playoffs. Like that's how good of a player I think Kyle Tucker is and can be. 13 home runs, 6 steals so far this year. He's hitting 271, on base of about 400, 397, slug of 590. So just absolutely killing it. 8th ranked player in fantasy overall. I'm surprised he wasn't number 1 this week. I'm kind of curious who was, but Kyle Tucker is my dude. I'm loving it. So he's my MVP of the week.
Well, number 1 was a guy you mentioned earlier, and I didn't flinch. I didn't even I kept it cool and calm. Leody Taveras. He had 11 runs scored. This is just the last 7 days. 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 11 runs scored, and a 452 on base. So Leody Taveras, who was, by the way, in Yahoo leagues, he jumped by 11% just in the last league rostered, right? He was 4% rostered. He's now up to 50% rostered. He's rostered in my league. I'm assuming he's rostered in our league also. But I mean, what this guy has done, Leody Taveras is worthy of MVP of the week. He's been quite literally the best player in fantasy this week. Like you said, the 11 runs, like even the 2 home runs, not crazy, but the 11 runs scored, those are numbers that could like win you a league. Like when you're talking about across, like on an average week, you're probably going to score maybe 40 runs as a team, like your fantasy team. If one dude is getting you 11, that's pretty good. That could carry you. That could catapult you to a win in that category alone. So Leody Taveras was quite literally this week a league winner, which makes him the most valuable player of the week.
I like that. That's good. That's beautiful.
All right. And now I have a great lock of the week.
Oh, so I'm excited. I'd like to hear that. I think we'll close out with yours then. All right.
Yeah.
My guy is someone who I personally, I wasn't a fan of for a long time, and I'm still not sure how I feel. But he actually has also been scorching hot over the last 10 days or so, 10 games. And I'm sorry?
We might have the same one again.
Is it an Oakland Athletic player?
No. Okay.
Oh, yeah, right. Isn't that? It's weird to say an Oakland A player is, and that is Brent Rooker.
Well, I talked about him on. I told you about him last week.
I was not, again, I always had a problem. Maybe it's because he's an Oakland player, but he's hit 9 in his last 9 games, 4 home runs. He's 16 for 35. He has just been lights out, on fire, 12 RBIs, 11 runs. Ride the guy while he's hot. He should not be coming out of your lineup. I don't care who your outfield is. Brent Rooker should be in your roster this week.
Yeah, I told you that last week. I was like, man, this guy, and he hit like the amount that he's been rostered in the last week since we talked last. I gave you him as my backup MVP. Remember? So I think it was like Profar and him. Yeah, and he's been awesome. My other guy is a guy who we've talked about, and I take full credit for getting him going because he was having a terrible season, and we brought it up multiple times. And then all it took was a series against the Mets last weekend, and now all of a sudden he's hot, and that is Randy Arozarena.
Mm-hmm.
This week he's playing in Boston, in Toronto, division opponents on the road. He's going to want to show off. He's got 3 stolen bases, 346 on base, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 4 runs scored in the last week. So I expect him to go on the road in these big matchups. Maybe means that he's finally starting to turn it around. For fantasy purposes, he's still not like close to where you want him to be, his season numbers, but he's a lot better than he was to start the year. And so hopefully he can keep this up. And like we talked about, he's like a big game player. He likes when the moment's big. If he gets going now and he goes into Boston, goes into Toronto, has a big week, I wouldn't be shocked.
I love it. I'm a huge Cowboy fan, huge Arozarena fan. So happy to see him finally get going.
Yeah, it's a good sign for the Rays. It's a good sign for their team and obviously for your fantasy team because he's probably rostered and he's one of those guys like Gleyber Torres who's like sitting on your roster. And you're like, am I supposed to be benching him? I actually started Gleyber Torres today, and then he hit the big 3-run home run. Big. It didn't matter, right? It was when the Yankees were up, I guess. But he hit a home run late or whatever it was. So again, or maybe did he hit this? I don't remember which home run he hit.
That's too bad. I started Edgar Julian today instead of him.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's one of those guys where you're waiting. You're not going to drop him out of your roster, but maybe you're putting him on your bench. Like, when can he pick it up? Well, this week, start a Randy every single day. He's going to come through for you this week. That's all I got.
Yeah, that wrap it up. I don't think I got anything else. I'm happy where some of my teams are at. Some teams are in the garbage. It's just
I was losing 8-1 earlier today. Sure. And now I think it's 5-5. So I had a good day today.
And I am going to defend mine a little bit. I'm having an okay week and I'm getting slaughtered. I'm down 0-10 right now. And I'm not even having that terrible of a week.
You have weeks like that though. Like,
yeah,
it's just
he's
ridiculous.
just on fire. 15 home runs, 11 steals for him. I can't.
Yeah, my week is solid. It's not great. 36 runs, 35 RBIs, 11 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a 341 on base. Where I'm beating him is just like number wise because I have 67 innings pitched and he only had 53. So I have 4 wins, 2 saves, 61 strikeouts. So that's a numbers game at times.
Yeah, and it happened. We're gonna lose, right? It happens. But I would say stick to the process, right? That's the important part, right? Trust the process.
I hope so, but it also shows you how if it could shift that much, like it was 8-1 and then 5-5, like in one day, it just tells you like, you're going to be close in a lot of these categories, and sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going
to get killed.
Yeah, it's just weird that the way it works, especially when you're talking about like head-to-head leagues like that where you're winning categories. But that'll do it for us.
Yeah.
Until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. See ya.
Take care.